Imagine you wake up this morning, grab your phone before your feet even touch the floor, and the first thing you see is a notification. It's a photo. Your old college friend Marcus just posted a picture of the keys to his new apartment. Not renting, buying. A few seconds later, another notification. Your coworker Priya is sharing a reel from Bali, cocktail in hand, toes in the sand, caption reading, work from anywhere. Then you scroll a little further and you see it, another friend, Jake, who you grew up with, posted about hitting his first $100,000 saved. Same age as you. You put the phone down. You stare at the ceiling. And the question you've been quietly asking yourself for months finally rises to the surface and demands an answer. What are they doing that you're not? What do people who are making money know that you don't? Why, with everything you're working for, are you still feeling poor? That question is exactly what this story is about. This is the story of Lucas. And if you've ever felt that suffocating mix of confusion, frustration, and quiet embarrassment when you look at your bank account and wonder where all your money went, then this story might just change the way you think about money forever. Lucas was 26 years old. He lived in a decent one-bedroom apartment in the city, drove a car that was just new enough to impress people at a stoplight, and wore clothes that looked like he had it all together. On the surface, Lucas looked like someone who was doing okay. He had a full-time job at a mid-sized marketing company, earned a salary that most people his age would consider solid, and had a smartphone, a streaming subscription, a gym membership he barely used, and a coffee order that cost more than most people's breakfast. Lucas had all the aesthetics of financial stability. But there was one problem: Lucas had almost nothing in his bank account. And every single month, without fail, he asked himself the same question: where does all the money go? It wasn't that Lucas didn't care about money. He thought about money constantly. He thought about money when he checked out at the grocery store. He thought about money when a bill arrived. He thought about money every time he swiped his card and felt that slight wave of anxiety he'd learned to ignore. Lucas cared deeply about his financial life. He just didn't understand it. And that gap, between caring and understanding, was costing him everything. The truth about people who are making money and building real financial freedom is something nobody told Lucas growing up. Nobody taught him about hábitos financieros, financial habits, in school. Nobody explained the difference between assets and liabilities, or why the way you think about money determines your financial destiny more than the number on your paycheck. Lucas grew up in a household where money was something you spent when you had it and worried about when you didn't. That was the only financial education he ever received. And he carried that mindset straight into adulthood, straight into his first salary, and straight into the cycle that was keeping him poor. The month everything changed started like every other month. Lucas got paid on the 1st. It was a good feeling, it always was. For about 48 hours after payday, Lucas felt rich. He'd look at his balance and feel a brief, glorious sense of financial security. He went out with his friends that Friday night and picked up the tab without hesitation. He bought himself a new jacket he'd been eyeing for weeks, telling himself he deserved it after a hard month of work. He upgraded his streaming plan because there was a new series he wanted to watch in 4K. He ordered food delivery 3 nights in a row because cooking felt like too much effort when he was tired from the job. None of these things felt irresponsible in the moment. Each individual decision felt completely justifiable. But by the 10th of the month, Lucas had already spent 60% of his salary. By the 20th, he was surviving on the remaining scraps, avoiding social plans, eating instant noodles, and telling himself things would be different next month. Next month never was different. Because the problem wasn't the month. The problem was the mindset. Lucas had what financial education experts call a scarcity mindset wrapped inside a consumption identity. He felt poor, so he spent money to feel less poor. He felt behind, so he bought things that made him look like he was ahead. Every purchase was emotionally driven, not financially strategic. Every financial decision was made in the present moment with zero consideration for future financial freedom. This is one of the most common financial traps for people in their 20s and 30s, and it's one of the biggest reasons why so many people are struggling financially even when their salaries should be enough. The day that cracked everything open for Lucas happened on an ordinary Tuesday. He was eating lunch alone at his desk. He'd skipped the work lunch because he was trying to save money that week, scrolling through his phone when he saw a long post written by Marcus. The same Marcus from the apartment photo. Marcus was writing openly about his financial journey, about how he had been broke at 22, about how he had completely changed his relationship with personal finance, and about the exact financial habits that helped him build wealth in less than 4 years. Lucas read every single word. Then he read it again. And then he sat back in his chair and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not jealousy. Not shame. Something closer to clarity. Marcus hadn't always been ahead. Marcus had been exactly where Lucas was now. The difference wasn't income. The difference was financial intelligence. The difference was the decision to learn about money and then actually apply that knowledge to daily life. Lucas sent Marcus a message that evening. A simple one. Hey man. Saw your post. Can we talk? Marcus said yes. They met for coffee that Saturday, and what Marcus shared with Lucas over the next 2 hours was the kind of financial education that doesn't exist in school but should be taught from day one. The first thing Marcus explained was the single most important concept in personal finance, the difference between how poor people think about money and how people who are building wealth think about money. It wasn't about income. It wasn't about luck. It was about habits and financial mindset. People who are making money and accumulating wealth, Marcus explained, treat their income as a tool, not a reward. When a paycheck arrives, they don't ask, what do I want? They ask, where does this go first? They pay themselves first, meaning they automatically save and invest a portion of every single paycheck before they spend a single dollar on anything else. This one habit alone, Marcus said, is the reason why some people with average salaries build real wealth while others with high salaries stay financially stuck. Lucas thought about his own pattern, the 60% gone by the 10th, the financial stress by the 20th. He had it completely backwards. He was spending first and saving whatever was left. And whatever was left was always nothing. The second thing Marcus talked about was the concept of assets versus liabilities, the foundation of financial intelligence that most people in their 20s never learn. An asset, Marcus explained in the simplest possible terms, is anything that puts money into your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. The car Lucas was leasing, that was a liability. The gym membership he barely used, liability. The upgraded streaming plan, liability. The credit card with the balance he was slowly accumulating, massive liability. Lucas had surrounded himself with liabilities and called it living well. Meanwhile, people who are making money are busy building assets, investments, savings accounts, skills that generate income, small businesses, dividend stocks. They're not depriving themselves of life, Marcus clarified. They just understand that every dollar spent on a liability is a dollar that can't be used to build a better financial future. Lucas felt the weight of 3 years of financial decisions sitting on his chest. 3 years of working, of earning a real salary, and having almost nothing to show for it financially. Not because he was unlucky. Not because he didn't earn enough. But because nobody had ever taught him the rules of money, and he had been playing the game without knowing them. The third lesson Marcus shared was about compounding, the principle that makes financial intelligence so powerful and so urgent. Compounding is the process by which money grows on top of money over time. It is the single greatest force in personal finance, and it is completely indifferent to how you feel. It doesn't care whether you understand it or not. It works for you if you invest early and consistently, and it works against you if you carry debt. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Lucas a simple calculation. If Lucas started investing just $200 a month starting at age 26, by age 50 he could have a substantial amount of money, not because $200 a month is a lot, but because time multiplies financial decisions. Every year Lucas waited, the calculation changed. Every year he delayed was a year of compounding he could never get back. Financial freedom, Marcus told him quietly, is not about how much you earn. It's about when you start. Lucas drove home that night in silence. No music. No podcast. Just the road and his thoughts. He thought about every paycheck he had ever received. He thought about the restaurant tabs, the impulse buys, the subscriptions, the clothes he bought to feel confident, the delivery food he ordered to feel comfortable. He thought about all the money that had passed through his hands and left no trace, no asset, no foundation. And for the first time in his adult financial life, Lucas didn't feel shame. He felt something different. He felt informed. He felt like someone who had just learned the rules of a game he'd been losing, not because he was a bad player, but because he'd been playing blind. The next morning, Lucas woke up early. Not because his alarm went off, because he couldn't sleep. He sat at his kitchen table with a notebook and started writing. He wrote down his monthly income. He wrote down every single expense he could remember from the past 3 months. He looked at the numbers honestly, without excuses, without justification, just the raw truth of where his money was going. The food delivery. The subscriptions. The spontaneous nights out. The impulse purchases. The coffee. The clothes. It was the first real financial audit of his life, and it was uncomfortable in the way that only honesty can be. But alongside the discomfort, something else was happening. Lucas was starting to see his financial life clearly for the first time. And clarity, even when it's painful, is the beginning of real change. This is the moment where people who are making money separate themselves from people who stay financially stuck. Not talent. Not luck. Not a higher salary. A willingness to look at the truth and then act on it. Lucas began implementing what he learned. He set up an automatic transfer to a savings account on the same day his paycheck hit, not what was left over, but a set amount he committed to before spending anything else. He canceled 3 subscriptions he wasn't using consciously. He started meal prepping on Sundays, not because he was suddenly a financial monk, but because he decided that food delivery 3 times a week was a financial habit he couldn't afford if he wanted to build financial freedom. He started reading about investing, about index funds, about how ordinary people build extraordinary financial lives through consistent, intelligent financial habits applied over time. He didn't become a different person overnight. He still went out with his friends. He still enjoyed his life. But the relationship between Lucas and his money changed completely. He stopped treating his salary as a reward to be consumed and started treating it as a resource to be deployed. He stopped making financial decisions based on how he felt in the moment and started making them based on where he wanted to be in 5 years. He stopped being a passive participant in his own financial life and started being the one in control. 3 months later, Lucas had saved more money than he had managed to save in the previous 2 years combined. Not because he earned more, his salary hadn't changed. But because his financial habits had changed entirely. He had assets growing for the first time. He had a financial plan. He had something he'd never had before in his adult life, financial confidence. The quiet, steady, deeply grounded confidence that comes not from buying things but from building something real. The reason so many people are making money while others feel perpetually poor has nothing to do with luck, with connections, with being born into the right family, or with earning a 6-figure salary. The people who are building wealth and achieving financial freedom share a set of financial habits, a financial mindset, and a willingness to delay short-term gratification for long-term financial security. They understand the difference between assets and liabilities. They pay themselves first. They invest early and consistently. They are financially educated, not because they went to a special school, but because they decided to learn. They treat personal finance not as a burden but as a skill, one that can be developed by anyone willing to take it seriously. The gap between the people who are making money and the people who feel poor is not income. It is information, applied consistently over time. And information, unlike luck, is available to everyone. If you've been feeling like money slips through your fingers every month. If you've watched people around you seem to get ahead while you stay stuck. If you've ever stared at your bank account and felt that mix of confusion and quiet panic, then you are not broken, and you are not unlucky. You are simply playing a game whose rules you haven't fully learned yet. And the moment you learn them, the moment you make financial intelligence a priority, build real financial habits, and start treating your money as a tool for building your future instead of a reward for surviving the present, everything changes. Lucas learned that. And so can you.